Witches are reality. Matter of fact, our public school system is hiring full-blown, well-known witches at an alarming rate.
This is Greg Locke on Kandiss Taylor's TV program. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Kandiss Taylor, this is her on screen right here. She ran for governor in Georgia in 2020 and failed miserably, fell flat on her face. It was glorious. But she's a far-right extremist. I can't possibly understate this. She is really extreme. She is the reason for the domestic terrorist attack that destroyed the Georgia Guidestones, this big monument in Georgia, a tourist monument. It just explained how to rebuild civilization in the event of, like, you know, a nuclear event or something. She encouraged a stochastic attack on the Georgia Guidestones, which eventually happened. And we have footage of a guy running up, dropping a bomb in the middle, and then running away, and then detonating the bomb. And she claims, despite the fact that we have footage of a guy walking up and dropping a bomb there, she claims that it was a lightning strike. Absurd on every level. Anyways, that's not even the beginning or the end of the absurdity with this person. Listen to this clip from Kandiss Taylor, late December 2022. I want to give you an idea of who she is, and then we're going to talk about Greg Locke.
I'm seeing a lot of occult, a lot of witchcraft, even students with pentagrams on their book bags. I'm seeing that all over the state. I've heard about that when I was campaigning, but then I'm still...
Yeah, so she campaigned in Georgia. This is her campaign bus. Jesus, guns, babies. That was her tagline. Seriously. That's who Kandiss Taylor is.
I've heard about that when I was campaigning, but then I'm still seeing that, you know, the furry movement with the kids dressing up in you know, as other animals and identifying as an animal instead of as a human. It's paving the way for bestiality.
Just, oh my God, dude. I don't even know where to start with all of this. It's just nonsense, beginning to end, all of it. She got like 6% of the vote and then claimed that she was cheated out of it because there was fraud. It was the Republican primary, okay? She claimed Brian Kemp, her Republican opponent, cheated her out of votes and stuff. Just absurd on every level. So anyway, that's Kandiss Taylor. So you know when somebody on Kandiss Taylor's level gets together with Greg Locke, of all people, it's going to be bizarre. Listen to what they had to say to each other late February 2023.
I believe that you have skills that you've learned and God's shown you. So tell us, how do we deal with witches?
How do we deal with witches?
Well, first of all, you have to boldly acknowledge their existence. Okay, you got to get away from this long, pointy nose, you know, green face, Wizard of Oz flying around on a broom idea. Witches are reality. Matter of fact, our public...
No, they're not. They're not reality. They're in your head, Greg.
Matter of fact, our public school system is hiring full-blown, well-known witches at an alarming rate. I mean, Facebook, there are huge...
Yeah, like, I would take literally any evidence. Give me anything at all. See, this is really what the origin of the term witch hunt meant. This is what it was supposed to be about. The fact that when you believe that there's some enemy out there that's secretly trying to infiltrate everything, take control of everything, and destroy your life, you start seeing it around every corner, even when it's not there. That's what a witch hunt really is. And that's what Greg Locke seems to be experiencing. I'll get into it more in a second, but just keep listening to this. He's seeing witches around every corner now.
Look, there are huge, massive, I mean, thousands of people in these witches' covens. Now, here's what's interesting. I've never dressed up like a witch so I could infiltrate a witch's coven and pretend to be one of them.
There are not thousands of people in witches' covens, okay? I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with this. This whole witches' coven thing, witches around every corner, it's all fabricated. It's in his head.
Pretend to be one of them. But witches dress up like Christians and come to churches all the time. I have to make a standing announcement every single Sunday night. I did it just last night. God did not tell you to lay hands on me and pray over me. I have to do that all the time because I let my guard down a few times and we had some witches come in, lay hands on me and pray. And I'm telling you, it rocked my world. I'm telling you, witchcraft is real. In the spirit realm, you better be able to see that stuff.
This is just nonsense, dude. I'm telling you, this is what happens when you start believing that witches are real. The paranoia sets in. You start seeing them around every corner. That's what the real meaning of witch hunt is. You think that they're out to get you. There are no witches, okay? They're not real.
And I got sick. It messed my flesh up. I was having nightmares, and I'm like, what?
You think maybe you just got COVID? Is that a possibility? Maybe you just, hell, maybe it's just a normal illness. You think maybe you just got the flu? He's blaming everything in his life, everything, on witches. He's blaming every negative thing that happens to him on some evildoers lurking around every corner trying to get him. That is the paranoia that forms when you think someone's out to get you like this. And as a matter of fact, this is the exact paranoia that we saw during the Satanic Panic era in the 1980s. Check out this video from the Satanic Panic. I think this is from 1994. I could be wrong on that, but yeah, somewhere around the late 80s, early 90s. Listen to this.
They will try and infiltrate your church. They will try and set up whispering campaigns against the pastor and the elders.
Who is they, I hear you asking? I'm not sure that he even knows who it is, but I think who he's referring to is like Satanists, I guess. He's just talking about some ambiguous Satanist group out there.
They may even try to seduce the pastor.
For 2 years, I was involved in the Baptist church. I was constantly complaining about the pastor's sermons being too long, being too dry, sowing discord between the people.
Glenn the Satanist, or former Satanist. Ridiculous, dude. This guy actually, this is from a TV show called Pagan Invasion, 1994 era, give or take. It was a series of like 12 videos that released on VHS, roughly an hour, hour and a half long each, and they spell his name differently in different episodes. In another episode I have with him in it, he pretends to have been raised as a Satanist since childhood, and they spell his name Glenn in this one. It doesn't show. Yeah, I clipped this out. I guess I didn't catch his name in the title there, but yeah, it's just a complete train wreck of a mess. Anyway, it's all fake. It was all fake then. It's all fake now. You know what else is fake and encouraging people to see a demon around every corner, someone out to get them around every single corner, this ridiculous paranoia? The trans panic is causing this too. Christians seem to be obsessed with the idea, and it's not just Christians right now, that trans people are trying to infect their children's minds with everything. You know, everybody's kids are going to be taken over and turned to trans people. Just nuts. Everything about it is nuts. Listen to this clip from the Satanic Panic era. This is the exact same... this is the exact thing I'm talking about. This is the mindset that Greg Locke is suffering from right now. Listen to this. 1991. I'm sorry. This is from 1991. These videos are 91, not 94. My mistake. Who we're about to listen to right now was, I believe, a member of parliament in the UK. I think. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, this is an old video, 1991. I think he was an MP.
Satanism exists in this country as it exists elsewhere. It is appallingly evil. It is about murder.
Yeah, there you go. David Wilshire, MP.
It is about child abuse. It's about abuse. It is
no to literally all of this.
no joke and must be taken seriously and must be dealt with.
If they can ritually abuse children, if they can in any way abuse children, anything to destroy a child's innocence or their trust or their wonder at the world, they will do it.
Completely made up. There is no group of Satanists out there trying to do any of this stuff. These people lived in a fantasy land back then, and it was a fantasy land constructed from their paranoia, from their belief that there was somebody hiding around every corner waiting to get them. Witches that worked as your school teacher or your babysitter or your whatever, your doctor. This is where the paranoia leads. Again, this is about the Satanic Panic, and this is something that Greg Locke is suffering from right now. The belief that witches are around every corner. But this isn't limited to Satanism. I feel I have to drill down this point that it's happening with the trans community right now, too. We're going through a new moral panic era against the trans community, and it's deeply disturbing stuff. Listen to a little bit more of this video. I just want to give you a good idea of where the satanic panic or where any moral panic can lead.
The most tragic stories that I've ever heard are where a child has told people what's been happening, and the adults have said, don't be stupid, that doesn't happen in this country, you're making up stories, you're lying.
He's trying to shut down the possibility that you will dismiss this as completely ridiculous. If people like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles and Ben Shapiro haven't said this about the trans community yet, they will soon. This is the next step if they aren't already saying this. The most egregious part is when a child tells somebody the teacher is grooming them and that person just shuts it down and says, you're lying, you're full of it. That doesn't happen in this country. That is the next logical step in propaganda. I'm predicting it now. Mark it down on your calendars. This will be the next, or this will be part of the propaganda machine against the trans community at some point during this moral panic. Quick reminder, don't forget to check out my website, owenmorgan.com. I would appreciate that very much. Just go to my website. When you go there, a little pop-up appears, says, subscribe to my email list right here. Just give me your name, it's optional, and give me your email address, and you will get access to early, complete, some ad-free videos every single week. You can also check out the website itself for some of this stuff, like if you want access to ad-free videos or whatever, and it's, you know, it's an aggregator, so you can look at all of my main channel's videos. You know, March 5th, the week of March 5th, it lists every video released for that week that's up here so far. So go to my website, sign up for my newsletter, and yeah, access early stuff that's ad-free. Pretty useful.
Also said, don't be stupid, that doesn't happen in this country, you're making up stories, you're lying.
The problem we're coming across is that,
dude, this guy needs to lose those aviators and get rid of the mustache desperately.
the higher officials in these public organizations do not want to acknowledge that this is occurring.
Sergeant Randy Eamon, Baldwin Park Police Department. He's a police officer.
We need to lift that veil of misunderstanding and saying, hey, this is a crime to be dealt with. It's the crime of the 90s. It's not going away.
Satanists want to recruit. We know that it's been going on for many years. This is not new, but their arrogance and their outwardness about the way they recruit is becoming unbelievable. Sometimes they'll simply...
Satanists never wanted to recruit. They don't actually even worship Satan. Everything about it is made up. This is where this mindset leads that Greg Locke has right now. This moral panic mindset, this literal witch hunt mindset, that's where it leads. So let me tell you something about Greg Locke. Let's talk about how he got here and his belief system in general. Let me show you the guy's mindset. This is from July 6, 2022. Listen to this.
You know why they try to stop what we're doing? Because we know that they're...
Well, who is they, first of all?
Because we know that there's power in the name of Jesus, and they know that there's power in the name of Jesus. And when we throw our stick down, it becomes a serpent. When they throw their stick down, it becomes a serpent, because the devil still has some power, but we serve a God who's got all power. Amen, church?
So that seemed innocuous. It seemed kind of meaningless in the middle of a 2.5-hour live stream, but it perfectly explains his belief system. Think about what he just said. He quoted a verse from the book of Exodus, I believe, that dealt with the story where Moses and I think Aaron showed up to Pharaoh's place with staffs, right? They throw their staff on the ground and it turns to a snake. Pharaoh calls in his wise men, and the wise men bring their staffs in, throw them on the ground, and they turn to snakes too. But Moses and Aaron's staffs gobble up the enemy staffs, or the enemy snakes. This story was not meant to derive this lesson from it, but the lesson that Greg Locke derived from it is a belief that God provides the power of witchcraft to his people. His people are capable of just as much as any witch out there is capable of doing. Fortune-telling, divination, anything. He believes that he has the power to do that, just like a witch would. You know, altering probabilities, or whatever other bizarre thing he believes witches do. He can do all of that too in his mind. Only he gets his power from Jesus, and witches get their power from Satan. That's his belief. That's why I call him a witch for Jesus. That's really what his denomination is. He's a witch for Jesus. They're witches for Jesus. His son, Hudson Taylor, actually gave a talk recently, a sermon, and I covered this in another clip that released not too long ago on one of my channels. And he drew this out pretty clearly for us too, February 22nd, 2023.
Well, how can an unsaved person do the works of God? The unsaved person sees the power of Jesus. There's power in tarot cards. There's power in a Ouija boards. There's power in palm readers.
No, there isn't.
There's power in that. You know why? Because here's how God works. God has given us a supernatural gift, and the devil can turn that around, and he can use that for a bad thing. That's why in Romans it says that God can take what was meant for evil and turn it for good.
See, that's the point. He believes that God provided the ability to do fortune-telling and divination and exorcisms and altering probabilities. He provided that ability to his people. And witches use that power from Satan. They use that power from Jesus. They are witches for Jesus. So back to the July 6, 2022 episode that we were talking about a minute ago. This was actually a special episode for Greg Locke because he believed that his whole church had been possessed by demons on July 6, 2022. And he was about to explain why he believed that, and he's about to cast those demons out. Listen to what he said about it.
People take little tarot cards, the spirit of Santeria and things like that, and they slip them under the chips. I think we'd be shocked at what's under these chips.
So he has wood chips at his church because it's actually a tent. It's not a church building. They used to have wood chips, but he ended up switching the wood chips out for AstroTurf, like fake grass instead, because he claimed that protesters were slipping tarot cards under the chips. I mean, how else would they have gotten there? I'm sure a protester probably did that. It's a pretty funny protest, if you ask me, but he believed that because protesters were slipping tarot cards under the wood chips at his church, he thinks that his whole church was possessed by demons.
So before I start talking about the cult, here's what I'm going to say. If we got any spirits in this room tonight...
This is him exorcising demons from his church.
...connected to the occult, right this moment you leave this room, and right this moment you come up and you get out. I want every spirit right now connected to a fortune teller, connected to a tarot card, or connected to a psychic reading to leave these people right now in the name of Jesus Christ. Every spirit and demon...
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic, man. This guy... You know, I guess you could say that the protest worked, right? Somebody was trying to protest his absolute obsession with witches, and so they stuck a tarot card under the wood chips, and he was obsessed from that point forward with the idea that his whole church was possessed by Satan, or by demons. One tarot card, and he thinks everybody is possessed now. This is where witch hunts lead you. I'm telling you. This is where invisible enemies lead. The belief that someone is always out to get you. They're around every corner. There's a groomer, you know, trying to turn your kid trans in every classroom. That's where the mind space takes you. August 14th, 2022. Check this clip out from Greg Locke. He explains why witches are always attacking him. He explains why the paranoia gets the best of him, really. Check this out.
I get these preachers all the time. They're like, well, my goodness, we believe in standing for the gospel, but we ain't ever had this stuff happen in our church that you talk about having in your church. How come you got demons stirred up? Witches are coming to your church? Well, they don't come to my church. That's because you're...
No, they don't come to their church because witches aren't real. He's gone on a full-blown witch hunt, and he can't let go of the idea that they're haunting him now.
Church, that's because your church ain't a threat to them. That's why. That's because your church is yoked up with them. You church praying some of the same voodoo prayers the rest of them wicked people are praying. No wonder your church ain't stirred up by a bunch of witches. I'm telling you, when deliverance hits the house and demons start getting stirred up and the fire gets cranked up, them serpents start coming out. Psst, all over the place. You'd be shocked what these men of God had to put up with. Be shocked.
God, there's somebody in the background yelling, come on. You guys remember earlier, I think, no, maybe it was in another clip, there was someone else yelling, "Come on," in the background again. Dude, this is like, these two clips are like years apart, and there's still that same person in the background yelling, "Come on." What is this? It's so weird.
Be shocked. People think pastoring's all rosy-posy, Rolex watches, flying around in Lear jets, living in big old houses.
Yeah, kind of.
No.
Yeah.
That's what them YouTube preachers do.
And he's not a YouTube preacher, right? I mean, he was kicked off of YouTube recently, but he's still a public figure. He still has a website that, you know, brings in like millions of views. He's still a very, very big church with lots and lots and lots of money. So I don't know why he thinks that he can separate himself from everyone else.
That ain't what real men of God do. We hazard our lives for the gospel.
Sure, sure.
We go poor so you can be blessed.
You go poor, you say? Greg Locke? Poor? That doesn't sound right. No, the dude's worth, in my opinion, I mean, it's hard to know. Google says a number that I don't really believe. I would say at least tens of millions. At least. Minimum tens of millions of dollars. Maybe up to $100 million for Greg Locke. It's hard to tell.
We ain't in it for all that, and could be, and have the connections to be there, don't want it. When you start standing for truth, vipers will come out on you.
Right, so this is his explanation for why witches are haunting him around every corner, but the rest of the world is perfectly fine, including other deep Bible-believing Christians.
People start coming against you. These days, it's this political, leftist, Marxist, communist, socialistic nonsense. Nancy.
Wow, how many adjectives could we fit in there? Let's see if we can listen to that one more time.
These days, it's this political, leftist, Marxist, communist, socialistic nonsense. Nancy Pelosi stuff.
Nancy Pelosi stuff? Like, is Pelosi any of those things? I don't think so. Wow, dude, that's crazy. So, anyways, the point is, this is where the headspace leads you, inevitably. This is where you end up when you go on a witch hunt, when you think witches are out to get you, when there's some amorphous, ambiguous enemy out there around every corner, when the trans community's trying to convert your kids. This is where it leads. You think that it's around every corner. It eats you up inside, and you end up going on witch hunts. Come back to reality with the rest of us, Greg, please.